Hello, team. It's time for the Daily Detangler. Processing the situation. I have been reflecting even more on stone soup. I'm going to, as Catalyst suggested, I'm going to stay on stone soup for a while. And thinking about the situation those kids found themselves in and what happened there. And trying to untangle myself on what happened there. There was a couple of critical moments that I wanted to share with you. And I think the interesting thing about this is the juxtaposition between what happened and where they ended up. You know, the going in situation from starving to amazing soup, the from what to what there is something that I really enjoyed reflecting on. And also this idea that it's totally relatable to what we're doing here at IQVIA. So let me ask you something. How did Dustin ride the backward bike? And this is what popped into my head this morning. Hey, let me call him up. Let me hit him up on YouTube. Hey, how'd you learn how to ride that backward bike? And he would go, well, I did a whole video on it. Did you watch it? Or he would say, I don't know. I got on and I wrote it. And then what if I said, hey, is there a LinkedIn learning course on that where I can maybe take that real fast? I mean, LinkedIn learning is really cool because they have these like 3-minute videos and they chunk it up. It's really digestible. It's consumable. I can just get in there, super high quality graphics. And, is there a LinkedIn learning course on how to ride this backward bike? Or maybe, Dustin, can you send me a one-pager? Something really like a picture that's really simple, because I got a lot going on. And can you just send me a one-pager or some graphic on how to ride that backward bike? Can you do that? Or maybe I could talk to somebody else who's ridden the backward bike before, and I could talk to them and they could teach me how to do it. Can we do all those things, Dustin? What would he say? And how are you feeling right now? Is that a bit of a ridiculous situation? When I'm saying it out loud right now, it sure seems to me. And yet, how many times have I found myself doing that exact same thing? I think I did that yesterday with something, not on that grand of a scale, but like, hey, can I, just get something, this is overwhelming, it's a lot of words, or it's a lot of words in this email, I can't digest it, or whatever. And how does that work? And how do you end up then with amazing soup in a story where these kids make it and it's super tasty? I mean, can you smell this soup? I mean, I know it's early in the morning, but I can smell it. And when you look at that, this really thing that kind of came out during one of my detanglers was this idea of how did this happen? And what's the situation here from we're starving to awesome soup, that from what to what, that initial situation of I'm starving to the end journey of this situation. If I look at that as an experience, right? How many situations are there? What is the situation? How does that play out? And, is there a recipe for that? Can I get that recipe? Can I figure this out? I need to learn how to make this stone soup myself. So what's the recipe? So I can just follow it, or what's the process, can I do that? And if I come to grips with the reality that this is a formula, that there's really not a sequence of events or scripted out. I mean, technically, soup can be made, how many different ways in that situation, you know? So that's interesting, right? There's not the quality assurance team saying we must have, 6 Sigma soup here, and it must come out every single time the exact same way. It's totally the opposite. Hey, let's see what happens. So what's the formula for that? That's what I'm curious about. Like, what's the formula for awesome soup? If I and then what can I observe through this story? So, well, they've got this, they understand their situation. This situation is kind of a no-brainer, right? Like, hey, we're lost and we're starving. Like, how much more explanation of the situation or analysis of the situation do I need to do? Then I could say, well, what happened from there? Well, once they recognized the situation, they got some water, they boiled it, and then at some point they threw this stone in, drew a bunch of people together, got them to put their ingredients in, and then they left all nice and full and zen, dishing out the wisdom dimes on the way out the town, these 6-year-olds. So, like, how does that happen? Um, and I wonder, like, does timing matter? Well, you know what? Timing doesn't matter on this, I guess, as long as they don't run out of wood and water. I mean, technically, there's no end time. Like, we must have this soup done by 6 o'clock. There's no real sequence to this. Like, well, I guess, there's like gates. You got to get a bucket of water and you got to start a fire. But is there, some sort of work breakdown structure of the entire thing that's required? What about quality? And the interesting thing about this is, look how simple this is along the way, but look at the quality it produces. Um, so all of these little simple things equaled really, really awesome quality soup. Just amazing. So where did that come from? And one of the things that I commented to Activator was, when she did these interviews on the 60-minute thing of, Stone Soup, was how this moment here was really, pretty fast when Catalyst did the story. But I was intrigued by this moment of these kids sitting down and trying to figure it out. So, like, how did they do that? Right. And my business suit brain would be like, oh, I know what they did. They read Simon Sinek, and they have to start with why, right? So, hey, why do we need to get soup? You know, let's talk about that, Johnny. And they, of course, they know why. It's because they're kind of like freaking hungry. Like, why start with why, Simon, on that one? You know, um, where are we, dude? We're sitting in the middle of a forest. Okay, well, when do you want to eat? Come on, man. What are we talking about here, right? It just doesn't seem quite natural, that fit. So let's go with the experience, stupid, right? Let me get please, I want some more. What happens here? You know, they're sitting in the tree, they're starving, they're sitting out under the tree, they're starving. I guess they could be in a tree, I don't know. But you know, what happens? Well, it's kind of this interesting thing to me. Like, I was like, do they start with who? Do they start with how? When? I don't know. So I got actually stuck here. I'm like, oh, this slide's not going to work. This slide's not going to work. And then I remembered the principles. And I was like, oh, let me start with the experience, right? So that's why I grabbed this little kid here from Oliver Twist. And then I'm like, okay, hey, why? It's not why are we here? It's like, or why are we contemplating? But let's just look at what happened. Their why was, because we're hungry, stupid. you know and I can imagine these two kids, because I've been there before. What do you want to do about it? I remember this one time, my friend and I, we lived in Michigan, and we went to this vineyard, and it has this huge hill. Well, we thought it was huge. And we just stood at the hill, and we went back home, and we got our sleds because it was snowing. So we got our sleds, and this was in Michigan. So we got them and went back. We just like jumped on our sleds and just went down the hill. I don't even think we talked much. We just did it. And it's kind of what this feels like here. It's like, hey, because we're stupid, I mean, because we're hungry, stupid, because we want a sled, stupid. Um, what do you want to do? I want to eat. That village looks like it might help us. Well, when do we want to do it? As soon as we can. Duh. Well, who's going to do it? Who's going to do this? Well, whoever we can get. Duh. How are we going to do it? We're going to knock on doors. Duh. We got nothing. Like there's just not much, analysis required there, which that led me to, the difference in how our brain operates, right? So left brain, right brain, we can think about that and, which brain is in effect here. And I think what I got tangled up on was, well, it's not right brain and it's not left brain. It's actually kind of both because they had to be creative. It's just, they're imaginative. Where did that imagination and that creativity come from? How did that happen? And the brain science would, there's a bunch of different lobes of the brain, and like touch and memory and heart rate and motor function. But the one that I'm going to zero in on is the frontal lobe. And the interesting thing about the frontal lobe is it's both left and right brain. They were focused, they were flexible. These kids were very aware, and they engaged in problem solving. They solved the problem, and they knew that they were hungry. So the frontal lobe kicks ass, and it's both left brain and right brain. It allows these kids to be creative and logical at the same time. But still, I ask myself, what is this? What is this juxtaposition between the business suit and what happened here on the left? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm curious about that. And, I'm not necessarily tangled up on it, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on what that is. What I know it's not is business suit. I mean, these two pictures couldn't be much different. And what the business suit would do in a situation like that, it would kick in. My business suit didn't kick in because I was so immersed in the experience and the visuals and stuff. But what if it did? I'd be like, let's do a root cause analysis on how these kids ended up here, or let's talk cause and effect. What were the parenting choices of these kids? And I actually debriefed this with Activator. I was thinking about that a little bit. I guess now that I think about it, I was thinking more in a little bit of business suit, but I caught myself. Like I was like, how did these kids start walking around? Where's their parents? Oh, let's you know what? Hey, somebody run a report on all the kids that have gotten lost, and all the kids who had to make amazing soup. So let's roll get the data, and why don't we benchmark other villages and see if we can figure this out? Because surely somebody's done this before. And then my favorite one, which right now, I just get a visceral reaction to this whole control what you can control thing. I mean, these kids couldn't control their situation. They could only, figure out how to navigate it. And the whole adage of control what you can control, I get really passionate about it. But because I think it's like right now in this time that we're in, the kiss of death. And maybe that's a future detangler on that. But what these kids did was pretty amazing. Get the water, attract people, throw a stone in there. And, they followed the principles. They focused on the experience. They led with them, trusted the process, and they orchestrated something from nothing. And, one of the things that I think that really stands out is they had a lot of courage, but they didn't have to make a choice to be courageous. They didn't have to figure out how to pull themselves up by the bootstrap. They were just, naturally courageous, like that time when I decided to sled down the hill. Some call it reckless, but what if it's courage? So with that, Dustin wants to know, what can you ride backwards today? Is there anything that you want to try a little bit different today to see what happens? I tried a little bit something different in the detangler today. And the reason why I did that is because change happens one stretch at a time. Thanks for joining today's Daily Detangler, and I'll see you tomorrow.